Asta here and welcome back to my channel. Today I want to talk about face primers. What is the face primer, how to choose one, and what are the benefits of it? So the primer is a makeup product that comes in gel, cream or liquid formula and creates that extra layer between your skin and your makeup. So when it's applied, it fills in any tiny creases we might have on our skin, smooths out those large pores, evens out the skin tone, blurs out any imperfections. In other words, primers normally just help our makeup to stay longer and create a perfect canvas for that foundation that you're gonna apply later. In a way, it's kind of like an extension to your skincare routine. So you might ask if the face primers are necessary. It is and it isn't. We actually have such a split opinion on primers between makeup artists. So some do swear by the face primers and some just say that they don't do any difference at all. And so it really depends of what you want to achieve to your skin. If you have very problematic skin and you need a little bit of help covering some things, then primer is a good idea. For example, if you have a oily T-zone and you want to keep that oily T-zone shine free for longer, you can just apply a mattifying primer. But if you're normal skin, you have no skin issues, and moisturizer is a good idea just to apply and then use your foundation. So it's not necessary to use it. The thing is, there's so many different face primers that are available on the market these days, and it's really hard to know which to get or which one works or not. And they do come in so many different forms. You can get hydrating primer, you can get color correcting primer, mattifying primer. There's also these skin boosters. There's also illuminating primers that give you nice glowy shine to your skin. There's around 20 different consistencies and finishes, but they all do come down to mainly two categories. So the first category of primers are silicone based and the second is water based. So let me tell you a little bit about the silicone based primers. So silicone based primers gives you this smooth, silky effect on the skin, which allows your makeup to glide on beautifully. It can also keep your skin's moisture levels locked and keep skin hydrated and protected. You know you have a silicone primer if one of the first 5 ingredients finishes with the ending cone, so it's C-O-N-E, or siloxane. For example, dimeticone, polysilicone, trisiloxane. If your primer has any of these words, it means it is a silicone-based primer. Now, the other category of the two is the water-based primers. And water-based primers are a lightweight moisturizers. They don't offer same skin smoothing properties as silicone primers, but if you hate that silicone feeling on your skin, or if silicone-based primers break you out, a water-based primer can still give you some great benefits for extending the life of your makeup. The problem with silicone primers is that some people who have maybe more sensitive skin, they are getting breakouts from the silicone primers. And the reason why is that silicone primers sometimes clog your pores. Not all of them, but some of them do. And if you're choosing that face primer, always have a look at the ingredient list. If the top first 5 ingredients have any of these endings, like I mentioned before, like cone, silicone, dimeticone and all, it's a great chance that it might not react well with your skin. But if you choose a primer and these specific words are further away down the ingredient list, it actually shouldn't cause you any problems. Most of the drugstore face primers or cheaper end primers have a bigger amount of these silicone ingredients, and they always on the top of that ingredient list. Compared to the higher end primers, you would see that these ingredients are lower in ingredient list, so there's a less chance that the higher end primers will clog your pores. So be mindful when picking up a primer, a face primer, and have a look in the ingredient list and do your research. So now that we know that the primers come in mainly 2 forms, let's move on and talk about how to choose a face primer that suits you. So it is all down to your skin type. Let's start with a dry skin type. So if you're someone who has dry skin and you feel like your foundation just clings and there's loads of dry patches on your skin, a primer can really help in this situation. So you could choose a hydrating primer. You could choose a hydrating mist sprays that you can spray on your skin before applying foundation. You can always go with illuminating primers because they are more on the moisturizing side. You can also choose an oil-based primer, which will give you a hydration and natural radiance to the skin. And for those who are oily, for oily skin types, if you find that your foundation kind of disappears throughout the day from certain parts of your face, especially from the T-zone, around the nose, or your forehead gets so shiny that you look like a butter at the end of the day, a primer is a great way to help in these situations as well. So your best friend would be a mattifying primer that you would apply in the T-zone, or if you're super oily, all over the face, and it should really help to extend that life of your foundation. If you're someone lucky with a normal skin type, you don't necessarily need a primer, but if you have some redness going on or there's something that you think you might need a little bit help, you can always go with color correcting primer. Even illuminating primers are nice on normal skin, or these hydrating primers just to give that extra plumpness to your skin. So it's not necessary, but I mean it would still give you a little bit of that skin benefit of that a nice looking finish to the skin when you apply foundation. And then lastly, if you are combination skin, if you have areas that are oily and then areas that are dry or normal or whatever, you can actually mix the primer. What I mean by saying mix is that you could apply, for example, a mattifying primer in a T-zone if you're oily, and then if you are dry on your cheeks or on the sides of your face, you can use a hydrating primer. So it's just literally choosing two different products to tackle different problems on your skin. If you are wondering if you can wear a primer without makeup, if you are someone who's not wearing makeup at all, but you have some skin issues that you want to address, you can no problem wear a primer on its own. So if you're shiny, the mattifying primer will take that shine away from your skin. If you're dry, maybe that hydrating primer on top of your moisturizer will give you the extra boost of hydration. So there's no harm of wearing primers on their own, and it would be just an extension to your normal skincare routine. What is the best way to apply a face primer? For applying your face primer, you can use your fingers, you can use brush or sponge. I personally prefer to use my fingers, clean fingers of course, because I feel that the warmth of fingers really melts the product into your skin and doesn't leave any uncovered areas, which sometimes might happen with the brush, but it's all down to your own personal preference. If you prefer using a brush, you can use a brush, no problem, or even a little beauty sponge. And before going and applying your foundation, make sure to wait a few minutes after application of primer. If it's something like water-based lightweight primer, it will absorb much quicker, so you could go with your foundation nearly straight away. But if it's a silicone primer, it would be best if you could give it around 4 to 5 minutes to sink in. You should always apply your primer on a clean, freshly moisturized skin. Of course, give your skincare products maybe 1 or 2 minutes to absorb before going with the primer, and always use the teeniest amount of products, pea-sized amount of primer, because otherwise, instead of doing you any good, it might end up sliding and slipping over your face if you overdo it. I can't stress enough to say that moisturizer is absolutely necessary, even though you're applying a primer. A primer is not a moisturizer, so you still have to do your skincare routine. You still have to moisturize your skin before application of the primer, so it's not a replacement. So now that I explained to you about different types of primers and how they work, I will share with you a few products that I have in my kit and I use on myself, just to show you different ways of how they work. Of course, telling about these primers, I'm being biased because they are working for me. I know there's so many other primers that are amazing and work for other girls. So with primers, it's always like a trial and error kind of thing, because if I would say that something works for me, it doesn't mean that it will necessarily work for you. I end up buying so many different mattifying primers, or the ones that claim that it can keep your shine away, because I had very oily T-zone and they didn't work, and now they end up sitting in my drawer and I don't know what to do with them. So first of all, as I said before, if you have normal skin and you don't want any extra products on your skin, there's always amazing moisturizers to buy that work as the primers as well. So one of them, you've probably seen this many times before, makeup artists using, is this Embryolisse light cream concentrate moisturizer. It's amazing moisturizer, gives you really good moisture to the skin, but it also acts as a primer. Another primer that I love and I was recommended to get is this Laura Mercier one. I think it is discontinued, and it's such a shame because it's such a good primer. I love that to use in my T-zone, and it really extends the life of my foundation. I use it on my oilier clients as well, and I really love it. Although this makeup primer was discontinued, Laura Mercier released a range of new face primers, and they come in different finishes. So you can get a blurring primer, hydrating primer, illuminating primer. I tried this blurring one. I'm not a fan of it. I didn't like it, but I know that the illuminating one is amazing and many makeup artists love it. So if you're someone who wants that extra luminance to your skin, if you're drier or normal, you want to add that nice glowy effect to your skin, definitely try out the Laura Mercier. Also, I want to touch up a little bit on color correcting primers. So if you have skin redness, if you have rosacea, if you have redness flare-ups, a primer might be a good way to add this extra coverage underneath foundation. You probably know that there's green colored primers that claim to counteract the red, and in theory, yes, green always counteracts red color. But I mean, with the green color primers for redness, you have to be very careful not to overdo it, because it might end up looking a bit ashy underneath your foundation. The one I found that is quite good is this one here from Stila. This one is the skin tone correcting and brightening primer, and I use that on someone who has redness issues on their face. Personally, myself, I would stay away from the green primers and I would try to cover up the redness with concealers. But if you try the green primer and it works for you, by all means, you can definitely use it. So now let's talk illuminating primers. I have few here in my hand. I do have more, but these are the ones I could find. This one is on the cheaper side, and of course MAC is more expensive, but they both do the same thing. They would give your skin extra moisture, they would give your skin more of that luminous finish and nice glow to the skin. If you are looking for that extra glow and nice dewy finish underneath your foundation, they are actually great for that. So now for those who have oily T-zone, like myself, it's so hard, as I said before, to find that really good mattifying primer that does actually extend the life of shine-free looking skin. So far, I'm loving this ordinary one. It's called the High Adherence Silicone Primer. Obviously, name says it all. It's silicone based. I find when I use it, it does really help for my foundation to stay shine free for longer. Another mattifying primer that I have is the one from Fenty Beauty. I bought this primer being super excited because of the feedback it has. Everyone is loving it, although unfortunately it doesn't work for me. I know that this primer specifically works on so many other girls. I think you just have to try it first before you make your own decision. This didn't work for me, but it has great reviews on it. So another category of so-called primers are complexion boosters. So complexion boosters give very soft focus on the skin. It illuminates. It makes fine lines and pores appear smoother. Some complexion boosters even have skincare benefits in them, like hyaluronic acid and all different vitamins. Whichever skin type you have, you can absolutely use these complexion boosters. Just be mindful where you're applying them. Because I have combination skin and I'm oily in the T-zone, I would only use these on the outer perimeters of my face because I don't want to add any more shyness to my T-zone. And it still gives this nice skin perfecting finish to my overall look. And as I said before, there is over 20 different forms of primers, but if you know what skin type you are, if you know what skin issues you have, you can really narrow it down to specific products that will suit you. So first of all, think if you need to add that extra product, if you have them skin issues. If your answer is yes, then accordingly to what you want to achieve, choose that primer, research it, maybe Google it and see what other people are saying. Although for me, it's not always working because, as I said, I read reviews, I see other makeup artists using some primers and they don't work. They just don't work on my skin. My skin goes still so shiny, and therefore, because they don't work on me, I tend to not always use them on my clients because I'm afraid it's not gonna work on them too. But that's just me. If you have found some amazing primers that you really love and they really work for you, please do leave the comment down below and share your discoveries with me, because I'm always buying new primers. I'm always up to trying new things and I'm still looking for that one that really works. And also, as last time, if you have any questions, if you need help in regards of choosing your primer, feel free to contact me. I'm always there to help you. So I hope it was helpful. I hope you learned something and it will help you to pick that perfect primer. As always, thank you so much for your support, and if you enjoyed this video, press that like button and subscribe to my channel. I upload my videos every Friday, so make sure you wouldn't miss it. And I'm saying thank you so much for now, and I'll see you all in my next video.